Germany Marder2 entered the spotlight with one of the biggest contradictions in modern armored warfare. In September 1991, Germany revealed an infantry fighting vehicle weighing 44.3 metric tons, powered by a 1,000 horsepower engine, and built around the Rheinmetall RH-503 cannon. Yet by 1992, the entire program had been cancelled before a single production vehicle entered service. How could one of the most ambitious infantry fighting vehicles ever built become strategically exposed almost overnight? At first glance, the numbers were extraordinary. Marder 2 carried a crew of 3 and 7 fully equipped infantry soldiers. Its MTU 881 Ka 500 diesel engine delivered enough power to maintain a power-to-weight ratio of roughly 22.6 horsepower per metric ton, while reaching a maximum road speed of about 60 kilometers per hour. The RH-503 weapon system was engineered around a unique concept that allowed conversion between 35mm and 50mm ammunition configurations. On paper, it represented a dramatic leap beyond the 20mm cannon carried by the original Marder 1. But Marder 2 was never designed for peacekeeping operations or expeditionary missions. It was created for one specific battlefield. During the mid-1980s, West Germany expected that any large-scale conflict in Europe would begin with massive armored formations advancing across Central Europe. In June 1984, the German army issued formal requirements for a successor to Marder 1 that could accompany Leopard 2 main battle tanks while carrying 7 infantry soldiers and surviving threats, including automatic 30mm cannon fire across critical protection sectors. By 1988, Krauss-Maffei had been selected as the prime contractor, while Rheinmetall developed the turret and the RH-503 cannon. Germany planned to acquire about 1,000 vehicles between 1997 and 2001. Then history changed faster than military procurement. The Berlin Wall fell in November 1989. Germany reunified in October 1990. The Soviet Union dissolved in December 1991. Within months, the strategic scenario that had justified Marder 2 almost disappeared, leading defense planners to reassess whether such a heavy and costly infantry fighting vehicle still matched the new security environment. Leading global defense analysts continue to argue that Marder 2 correctly anticipated the future trend toward heavier and better protected infantry fighting vehicles. The irony is that its core philosophy became widely accepted only decades after the program itself had ended. Before we go on, do you think Germany canceled Marder 2 too soon? Subscribe for more in-depth defense analysis. And tell me where you're watching from. The real surprise was not simply how heavy the vehicle had become. It was how Germany attempted to combine the protection of a main battle tank with the flexibility of an infantry fighting vehicle, nearly 3 decades before that concept became common across Europe. Its most distinctive feature was the Rheinmetall RH-503 automatic cannon. Unlike the 20mm weapon carried by Marder 1, the RH-503 was designed around a modular concept that allowed conversion between 35mm and 50mm ammunition configurations. The prototype carried approximately 287 rounds for the 35mm configuration and featured a fully stabilized turret with 360-degree traverse. For the late 1980s, This represented a remarkable increase in firepower against armored vehicles' fortified positions and low-flying aerial threats. Mobility was equally ambitious. Powered by the MTU 881 Ka 500 diesel engine, producing 1,000 horsepower, the vehicle achieved a power-to-weight ratio of about 22.6 horsepower per metric ton, despite its combat weight of 44.3 metric tons. With a maximum road speed of around 60 kilometers per hour and an operational range approaching 500 kilometers on roads, Marder2 was designed to advance alongside Leopard2 rather than struggle to keep pace behind it. Protection also reflected a completely different philosophy from earlier infantry fighting vehicles. German requirements issued in 1984 called for significantly improved survivability, including resistance against automatic 30mm cannon fire across key frontal protection sectors. That requirement alone pushed engineers toward a much larger hull and a substantial increase in weight compared with Marder1. Yet the vehicle also revealed important limitations. The prototype did not carry an integrated anti-tank guided missile system. Modern infantry fighting vehicles frequently combine automatic cannon fire with long-range guided missiles to engage heavily protected targets. Leading defense analysts therefore argue that, while Marder2 accurately predicted the trend toward heavier armored vehicles, its battlefield architecture still reflected the tactical priorities of the late Cold War, rather than the fully networked combat environment of today. Perhaps the strongest evidence of its forward-looking philosophy can be seen in Germany itself. Puma entered service in 2015, with a combat weight exceeding 40 metric tons in its highest protection configuration, and an engine producing more than 1,000 horsepower. Although separated by more than 2 decades and built around very different digital technologies, both vehicles demonstrate the same underlying conclusion. Germany believed that infantry fighting vehicles could no longer survive by remaining light. They had to fight beside main battle tanks as equal partners on the modern battlefield. Ironically, the greatest challenge facing this vehicle was never another armored platform. It was the speed at which European history changed between 1989 and 1992. When development began in the mid-1980s, the strategic assumption was clear. West Germany stood on the front line of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and expected that any large-scale conflict would involve massive armored formations crossing Central Europe. That assumption justified a heavily protected infantry fighting vehicle intended to operate beside Leopard2 during sustained high-intensity operations. Then, the geopolitical landscape changed with extraordinary speed. On the 9th of November 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. Less than 1 year later, on the 3rd of October 1990, Germany officially reunified. Finally, on the 26th of December 1991, the Soviet Union formally dissolved. Within little more than 2 years, the military scenario that had shaped every major design requirement for the new vehicle had largely disappeared. The timing could hardly have been more dramatic. The first prototype was publicly presented on the 17th of September 1991. Barely 3 months later, the Soviet Union no longer existed. A program originally created to counter one of the largest armored forces in history suddenly faced an entirely different political and financial reality. German defense planners also confronted significant domestic priorities. National resources shifted toward reunification, while the Bundeswehr entered a period of force reduction. A fleet originally planned at approximately 1,000 production vehicles between 1997 and 2001 no longer matched the security environment or the available defense budget. By 1992, the program was officially canceled before serial production could begin. What makes this story remarkable is that the decision was not driven by evidence that the prototype had fundamentally failed its engineering objectives. Contemporary assessments instead focused on the vehicle being too heavy, too large, and too expensive for the new strategic era. The military requirement had changed faster than the technology itself. Today, only a preserved prototype remains as a reminder of that decision. It represents one of the clearest examples in modern defense history that successful military engineering does not guarantee operational adoption. Sometimes changing geopolitics can reshape procurement priorities more quickly than even the most advanced weapon system can reach full-scale production. More than 3 decades later, the strategic environment has changed once again. Russia and Ukraine have demonstrated that armored warfare remains highly relevant in Europe, even though the battlefield now includes unmanned aerial systems, precision artillery, and persistent surveillance. Heavy protection still matters, but it is no longer enough by itself. Germany has responded by rebuilding heavy land combat capability. Puma officially entered service in 2015 and continues to receive upgrades. In December 2025, Germany approved the procurement of 200 additional Puma infantry fighting vehicles under a contract valued at approximately €4.2 billion, with deliveries expected to begin during 2028. At the same time, the German army is establishing a permanent armored brigade in Lithuania as part of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization forward defense posture. Those decisions demonstrate that heavily protected infantry fighting vehicles remain central to Germany's military planning. Yet history also shows why this earlier prototype should not be viewed through nostalgia alone. Modern combat vehicles require capabilities that did not exist in 1991. They must integrate digital battlefield networks, advanced thermal sensors, programmable ammunition protection against unmanned aerial systems, and, in many cases, active protection systems. Leading global defense analysts therefore argue that while the earlier design correctly anticipated the return of heavier infantry fighting vehicles, it would still require extensive modernization to meet present operational requirements. Perhaps that is the real legacy of the program. It proved that engineers can correctly predict the direction of military technology while still being overtaken by geopolitical change. The vehicle itself was not rejected because its engineering vision lacked ambition. It became vulnerable because the strategic assumptions behind its development disappeared before mass production could begin. The greatest lesson is not that Germany abandoned a perfect machine. The greater lesson is that defense planning is always a race between technology, economics, and history. Even the most advanced platform can lose relevance if the world changes before it reaches operational service. Looking back from today, it is difficult to ignore the irony. Europe once believed that large-scale armored conflict belonged to the past. Today, Germany is once again investing heavily in armored forces built for territorial defense. So, what do you think was the greater mistake? Canceling an advanced vehicle that anticipated future trends, or believing that the strategic conditions of the early 1990s would last forever? Share your thoughts in the comments below.